Welcome to Founders Brew. This is the podcast where we unlock the good, the bad, and the ugly for you. Uh, right from fundraise to getting to know what's the basic and what are the essentials. This is a conversation that we have with our friends. This is not a preaching session. This is more like a conversation between three of us who've been at the startup and have nurtured the space and trying to find the nuggets of gold during our conversation. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think one of the basic things that we agreed upon was that this was going to be completely bootstrapped. This is bootstrap. It's cameras, phone cameras, and somebody else's podcast location, all of that. So, yeah, I mean, episode number 3, episode number 1 is already live. We're getting some traction on it. And yeah, I mean, Dushyant, please.
So Toby, welcome. Welcome. And yet again, Toby has been a great supporter. Toby and I, we were back in Expedia. That was the first time I met him. That was in Hong Kong. And ever since I've been in Singapore, he's helped me. When I was building tracks, he was at Affinity, and then he connected me back to the government startups, that ecosystem that I could get leverage. Then he introduced me to the XA network because Toby has also been ex-Googler. He was in Google. He's done a lot of enterprise sales, and currently he's with Uncarbon, the sustainability startup in that space. So Toby, welcome, and thanks again for coming and sharing the conversation with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat and talk about the startup ecosystem here in Singapore and abroad, and some of the good and the bad and the ugly, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's mostly ugly. The good and the bad seldom comes, but those are like the highs that we get most of the time. And with you, we'll focus primarily on the angel investing, because as a founder, I think that's like a complete gray area for me. I have been intrigued. I also have done some angel investing in the past, but I think you've been into this a lot more than anyone that I know. So it'll be good to get that perspective, and also your perspective as an advisor for the startups. Advisor is something that we miss. Advisor is the only thing that we have that can shape if done rightly. So we will be looking forward to that.
So, Toby, thanks for doing this. Actually, all of us have been involved with startups in some form or the other, and there's always this myth around the angel investor community. And so what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that founders have around angel investors?
Oh, misconception that founders have about angel investors. I don't know. I've never been a founder, so I'm not sure what I think about what I think about angel investors. I think a few things could be there's a lot of angel investors that have a lot of big checks to write. I think that's probably one thing. I think that founders could have the misconception that angel investors will be like a silver bullet. Solve all their problems and be that magic wand that suddenly can bring in 10 new accounts. I think that those are probably a couple. Oh, and that the angel investors are always available for them whenever they need it. Now, it's not to say angel investors don't want to help or aren't available, but maybe, and again, I don't know every founder, so it's hard to me to speak to all of them, but there could be a misconception of their amount they could be available.
So, as an angel investor, how do you think that the ecosystem has changed? The angel investing ecosystem has changed over the last 10 years or so. The reason I'm asking is that 10 years ago it used to be fairly easy to get structured or unstructured investments from an angel investor. You could put a bunch of people that you knew together and call them angels and thing. Now there are syndicates. Now there are special purpose vehicles. All of those have come into being. So there's a certain amount of maturity. What do you think founders need to be aware of?
So in terms of how the industry has changed, I think a couple of things have changed. One is that the industry is democratized for angel investing. A lot of people are doing angel investing these days, and I think some people like the idea of the label of being an angel investor. Makes you feel good about yourself that I'm dropping checks into these to these young budding entrepreneurs and startups, and looks good on maybe on my LinkedIn profile and shows that I'm diversifying my interests and my business. But I think that democratization has caused a few things. One is that there's just, like you said, there's a lot of networks and syndicates and all these groups, and they all position themselves, try to position themselves quite differently. And I'm just not sure that there is a lot of difference between a lot of them these days. I think that kind of with that kind of democratization is that there's the professionalism, although the structure is become greater, I think that the true value of an angel investor maybe has been diminished, right? Because I think that the people that are really good at it and really want to add value, that as a percentage of the total angel investment community has kind of decreased.
Yeah, I would remember my earlier old days where people who were interested in business have seen it grow from 0 to 1 or maybe 1 to 100. They would understand the nuances and they would find companies or people or who are building such one. They had expertise, and we had few examples like back in my old days, like Sanjeev Vichanani. He would vouch for people, he would vouch for, and they would know and they would help businesses. It's not just about providing money, but also they would come and actively work with you and to provide the next stage of growth, either from getting you more clients or maybe helping you strategically and not just capital. So my experience with the angel investing, especially from Singapore, is not from this building the new or the next big thing, but more from, okay, I think a startup can give me 10x. It's more than what I can get by investing any other place. So now, should I just dip in and try to? I've got some extra surplus. Should I just put in and try maximize my returns, because the returns can be far more greater. So the true sense of business is what I feel as a founder.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's bang on, right? It's the kind of democratizing of it. If you, if your angel investment or angel network is professional enough, and they actually do qualify you as an angel investor, which means you're a qualified based on the mass requirement to do these angel investments, then the only box you're ticking is your net worth or your income. So I think you see a lot of these professionals and industries that typically aren't engaged or haven't been engaged with the startup community before, just use angel investment or angel investing as just another asset class, right? They have their equity portfolio, maybe they've got some ETFs, maybe they've got some bonds, and then, hey, listen, I'll drop in 5% into Bitcoin and 5% into angel investments as just kind of expanding the portfolio. So yeah, I think you get a lot of that, in not just in Singapore. I think it's happening everywhere. I think Singapore, you have that concentration of certain industries, and finance being one of them, and a few other industries where you could have that a little bit more and more densely populated.
But with angel investing or startups becoming an asset class, hasn't that diminished the very ethos of what angel investing was supposed to have been? The valley is full of angel investors who have written checks who had nothing to do with the industry that they wrote checks out for.
Yeah.
And they kind of nurtured an entire generation of startups. But in places like Singapore, Southeast Asia, Asia particularly, Dubai, that asset class problem seems to bring its own set of issues and problems. Because when you start treating startups as an asset class, there is a different set of guidelines that you follow, which investment banker would basically look at, but not an angel investor. Or maybe I'm just too just too misguided to be thinking that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, but I think there's still those people out there, and there's angel investors out there, and there's networks out there that truly do want to provide value to the startups, and that's why it's just like when a startup is at the stage when they're looking for VC funding or other kind of commercial funding. Like you might be able to choose who you take money from, right? And it's more than money, right? And just like you would choose between two different VC funds, you might choose between either two different angel networks or even two different angel investors, based on what you want from them. Right.
So yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you want me to ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you invest? Is it like just connecting the dots, serendipity, gut feel? What does it take to get a check out of you?
Yeah, I think angel investing, almost by definition, in many cases, there's either no revenue or very, very little revenue. So investing based on a financial statement is not really kind of the model or possible. We've been doing, the network I'm part of now does a little bit of later stage stuff, and we can see some of that stuff, but I think primarily we still focus on angel. And so, yeah, I mean, I like to think so far I've been relatively lucky, but I think a lot of it is gut. I think there is a lot of gut involved. I mean, you do want to understand that there's a pain point that's trying to be solved for, and we can probably get into this a bit later. I don't know. I think more importantly is the founder or the founding team, because quite often, especially at the angel stage, what they're building for today isn't often what they'll end up building for in the future, or what will make the company successful. So sometimes it's less about the idea, although typically it's not a complete 180 pivot to a completely different business, although I have seen that recently, especially with COVID and some travel technology startups. One I'm an investor, or was an investor in, but generally, like, you need to believe in the founding team, and depending on the technology, whether they have the technology chops, and then right now, is there an idea that they're solving for, and can that become something else in the future?
Right. So, yeah. So, are there any sort of red flag, or maybe some sort of like the tick box that you need to have, like a must, if you're considering, or if there is a startup that's there in your consideration set?
Yeah. I mean, I've done enough research to know that it's nice to have two co-founders, but I have invested in startups with one. So, and some are doing
Solo
just
founder,
fine. Sorry, solo founder.
Oh, that's a lot of conviction.
Yeah. So one is a company called Tiger Hall, Nelly, and she's just expanded into the US. And yeah, it's rare, especially rare to find a single female founder. But we had big conviction in her and the business challenge, and she's now also slightly pivoting, not completely into a new area, but the messaging and the problems that she's trying to solve for. So that'd be one that I would prefer to invest into. I think being a founder is tough, and I think you need someone to bounce ideas off and to go through pain together, and to, right, and someone you can relate to, right, and someone, but involved in your business, right? Because talking to your partner, whether your husband, your wife, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or other partner, like, it's nice to be able to talk to them, but there's nothing coming back, right? So I think having that banter is important. So that's one thing. I think understanding what type of culture they would bring to the business, and it's not about diversity and inclusion and like some of the stuff that I think you probably would have heard 5 or 10 years ago, but it's more around, how do they want to treat their colleagues? What's the type of environment they want to foster? Do they want to build a community where people are empowered, like these types of things, right? Because I think like when you have a small team, you can get away with maybe not having some of that stuff, but as the team grows, it's super important that you're building a culture where you can scale the business and the people, and you can't do that if you have to control everything.
Right. And that culture aspect you can never ever get, right? Neither on the financials balance sheet, not in the first one, but off late we've been stormed with this word, right? The founder mode. People are getting into the founder mode, and you don't know whether that's a great culture, that's a good culture. What does that promote? Those are like nice things from the outside. When you're in it, it's a very difficult thing to grapple with.
Yeah, I think it wasn't ever defined when it first came out, and everyone interpreted it on their own way. Some people were like, it means you have to micromanage everything, and I don't think that's what it was meant to be. But yeah, I think everyone has taken that. I think there's been some clarity around it to some extent, but yeah, I think that it's different. But I don't think it means that you do have to micromanage everything. I don't think that's what it means, and I don't think because the founder wants to understand what's happening in all parts of the business, that's a bad thing either. And it doesn't mean they are actually micromanaging. It just means that they're getting into the weeds and understanding kind of the details instead of just having someone from marketing give them the big picture. So I don't think they have to create a bad culture for that to be in place.
Yeah, I think the other phrase that was being spoken about a lot on LinkedIn was wartime CEO versus peacetime CEO, or wartime founder versus peacetime founder.
Oh yes.
So yes. And that caused a whole bunch of a lot of discussion, which was more vapor than anything else. But any take on that? Because a lot of founders get into this, I'm going to be aggressive, go after something, and there's no relenting. So,
Yeah, wartime versus peacetime. I mean, peacetime just means I think times are good, right? I think it's relatively easy to be successful when times are good. And, look at 2021, 2022, times were pretty good. Interest rates were low. Money was cheap. So I think, companies are spending money. They're buying SaaS. They're, they're leaning in. So I think, yeah, it's sort of easier to be kind of a peacetime founder in those times. Being a wartime founder is tough. I mean, being anything in the time of war is tough. So, but I don't know if you need to differentiate. I think because you need to be able to perform in all situations, unless you're just a hired gun. Yeah. Then you're not a founder, you're a CEO.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think, and
there's no CEO. You're doing right from pushing out an email to crafting strategy decks to sending out investor emails. You're like doing everything there.
Yeah. So this pitching to an angel investor is something. I mean, back in India, we have a couple of these workshops that are on how to pitch to an angel investor. So do you what makes you pick an investment after hearing a 10-minute pitch?
Yeah. I think it goes back a little bit to the earlier question. There's a bit of gut, right? So I think has the founder really articulated the pain point really well? And I think I have to be able to somewhat identify with that pain point. Not 100%, but I have to kind of be able to put myself in the shoes or know someone maybe that has kind of associated with that pain point for me personally to buy into that. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is, have I bought into them? Right. So just in that interaction, Do I like them? Do I feel like they're going to be honest? I mean, there's been so many controversies, especially in this part of the world, unfortunately, in the startup ecosystem, where, if I'm going to drop, I mean, whatever an angel investment is, it's maybe a small check for them, but it's a big check for us. Like that's a big investment, right? So I want to make sure that at least it's not going to be squandered on fraud, right? So having that trust, and then I think I want to know what the TAM is, and I want to be able to believe in that TAM, right? Because you're investing in an angel investment because you want to have outsized returns, and most of the angel investments aren't going to get there. But you want to know that the ones you're going to invest in, like at least one or two of them, it's a big enough opportunity to make up for all the ones that don't.
Right.
So in that sense, it's not too far away from what a VC thesis would be. 1 in 10 would survive, and that would give you the return. So angels also would follow the same track.
100%. Like I don't know too many angel investors are going to go, you know what? I'm just going to do 5 angel investments in my entire life. Like, if you're going to do angel investments, you have to, I think, build enough a portfolio where, if your thesis is 10%, you need to have 10 checks, right? It's because you need one of them to have all those outsized returns. If you're even a quasi-professional angel investor, and it's the same thesis as a VC.
So, do all angel investors? Sorry, I'm hogging the questions here. So, just say last one from me. So, do all angel investments, or do most angel investments, investors, eventually go on to set a fund up? Is that something which is by nature of you get used to 20 of your investments doing well, and hey, I'm going to start a fund?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think all angel investors, that's their goal. I think there's a ton of angel investors, right? Can you imagine if every one of those angel investors in Singapore wanted to start a fund? There'd be thousands, tens of thousands of funds, I think. So I don't think every angel investor does. I think there's probably a bunch who have been working in tech, probably worked for a good chunk of their time in places like Google or Meta or any of these companies. Maybe 10 years there, they started angel investing and they're like, oh, well, I've really liked the tech ecosystem and maybe that's something I want to do in the future. It also depends on when you start angel investing, right? Because if you start later in life, you're probably not going to, just the nature of how long it takes for those investments to show that you are good at being an investor and then starting a fund, like that's a 20-year time horizon, right? So I think that those are probably things to consider.
Do you also look at it's a very different perspective as an angel, in addition to putting in the money, do you think you can build a business for them? Because it's not just the money that you're putting in, you're also looking at setting them up to success, because their core and your experience, they tend to match, and you can provide what you call the asymmetric returns to their faith in you.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that's why I do it. It's certainly why I got into it, and I know a lot of the people that I invest with, we have the same motivations. We definitely want to support our founders that we invest in, and even as I'm part of a network, even the startups that I haven't invested in that are in our portfolio, like if they have a problem that I have a very specific skill set or ability to help with, like I'll certainly jump in. But yeah, I think it's up to what the founder wants, and the expectation of what the angel can do to help. And I try to be as founder friendly as possible. Like, I'm certainly not pinging the founders on a weekly or monthly basis on how can I help. The good founders, we have good communication with us. They send me a monthly update, and generally the really good ones, they'll have very specific asks. And if I can help with that, or know someone that can help with that, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
But I think when we first started, we were doing monthly coffees with each of the founders. Of course, as you have more and more investments, that doesn't necessarily scale.
Oh, I remember sending you an email, and then you connecting me to the Sequoia person where I did go and pitch, so I can vouch for all the help that you provide to the community, even if it is not, the commercial, but if you know the people, so that's really great.
I think another question that comes, and I was thinking about this while you're talking, is that there is now a lot of VC funds, ones that have existed for 20 years, who have moved down the check sizes are much smaller. They are the difference between angel investing and a VC firm investing in the same space and the same category. Check sizes, or the size, at what stage the company is. Is there the blurring that's happening between pure angel investing and a VC firm which is behaving like an angel investor, or is it just an opportunity which they are catering to?
So just to clarify, do you mean that there's VCs that are going earlier stage?
Yeah, VCs that are going way down.
Way down. Okay.
It's not even. I mean, it's some of them are just above the friends and family round.
Right.
Pre-revenue, you start talking to VC firms.
Yeah.
And some of them do write check. I mean, we probably 1 in 100, but a lot of VC firms are hunting, investments that are in that angel category. So.
Yeah, I think that there's some in. I mean, I know we know there's. So when we invest, there's a few VC firms that do invest in kind of C to A, and they've been doing that for a while. That's kind of where they believe they have a competitive advantage. I think like the more established VC firms, a lot of them have these programs where they have angels that don't invest on their behalf, but they're scouts, right? So Sequoia has the scout program, and there's a few other firms that have these programs, right? And I think that a lot of them are using these semi-professional angel investors who they believe have good track records to kind of invest on a little bit on their behalf. They're given some funds to go and invest in these startups, and then they track them, right? So now they get access to those updates and see how the startups are doing. It's a very cheap way of getting access to some data from the startups. But I don't know about them like a lot moving early stage.
No, so as a founder, should I be wary of something of this kind happening, because you're then kind of being corralled into one particular kind of investor or one kind of thinking? It's almost like you're being coached right at the beginning, way before your startup has reached a certain amount of maturity, to look at a particular kind of investor.
Right. No, I mean, I think there's always room for angels, right? You're never gonna until you get to probably a B round or later. I suspect it's you can always bring on angels onto your cap table. I think that in the earlier stages, even if you do take money from a VC, like your later rounds, it's unlikely they would lead their previous investment anyway. So you can bring on new VCs and new ideas at that time to diversify your cap table. I mean, and really it's up to the founder to decide who they bring on, right? I mean, it's your cap table. You should be able to say, if I want to raise $500,000 or whatever the round is, you know what? I don't want to take it from one VC. I want to split it up. I want to do two VCs. Here's one. The lead can do 3, and the other one can do 2. Right. So it's really up to the founder, and I think there's a lot of value in diversifying your cap table. That's what I think the value is in doing angel investing, or bringing angel investors onto your cap table, is hopefully they can help you, even if they help you with one thing. Right? If there's one thing that say bring on 10 angels and each of them can help you with one thing, that's 10 things that you weren't able to do or didn't know how to do, or that someone else helped you with?
Yeah. Like again, I think this is one very interesting question which Sweetal had picked. So you would go with the mediocre idea, great founder, or a great founder and mediocre idea?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's your pick?
Absolutely, the great founder and mediocre idea, right? So the media, like, because I think, like I said, the idea and the initial project that the founding team is working on might often switch. So the idea, it will likely change anyway. So if it's a great idea today, it might not be a great idea tomorrow. The founder is always going to be mediocre. So it's unlikely that founder will go from mediocre to great. But that great idea might become a mediocre idea because things change. I mean, how many AI startups started a year ago and probably don't exist today?
Yeah.
Right? Because at the time, it was probably a great idea. But technology has changed so much that the idea that that startup had a year ago is probably now either out of date or someone's come along and just done a way better job of it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with this. A startup is all about people.
Yeah.
And if the people, founders, they stay together, irrespective of the problem that they're solving, irrespective of the idea, is going to be great. One story that goes for I think the Dropbox founders, where they started building a product, but the VC said, "We're not invested in your idea, we've invested in you," and then they end up building the Dropbox.
So pivots, I think, are mandatory. I mean, if you have an idea, to your point, Toby, that if the market situations, economics, or the whole ecosystem can change, and you will have to pivot to something else.
Yeah.
But why do a lot of people, a lot of investors, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's angel investors or VCs, why do they have an overemphasis on having this unique idea? This comes to, like, say, categorizing a startup into a particular vertical and then deciding that's a great idea because you got a great bunch of guys, but your idea does not seem to be all that great.
Yeah.
And then it's no go.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's a fair comment. I think that you still need to know that the founding team, you still need to know the founding team can come up with a great idea, right? Right. Like, I think that's what it really boils down to, right? And you do need to feel comfortable that they will think about things like, what's the moat, like what's the competitive advantage, right? And that's what a good idea usually has, is it's got, it is unique because no one has thought of it, or it's got a massive moat so that someone can't copy you. But it's got one of, a few things, right? And yeah, you are investing in the team, but you need to know they have the capabilities and the capacity to come up with those kind of gem ideas. And work backwards to why is it a good idea?
Yeah.
And usually that's part of that discussion. It's not only here's my idea, but it's like, here's how I got there.
Yeah.
And you want to know that they have the ability to do that again and again, potentially.
Right. Just adding to that, and probably unrelated, and this is more in terms of personal experience, like that. So the startup I'm involved in is about 14 months now. Mm-hmm. And about 6 months ago, we started making revenue. Broke even somewhere around, at least one territory broke even a couple of months ago. And then we're chugging along, we're making that. But a lot of investors that we spoke to, and I have been part of startups, part of corporates, I've invested and never spoke to anyone at that time about this MRR question. What is your MRR? Mm-hmm. Right? And for the first couple of months, I was like, confused about this whole thing. Why is MRR for a 9-month-old startup such an important thing? And these were not VCs who would do probably Series A or a little earlier than that. These were syndicates and angel investors who looking at it. Then MRR question kept coming up. Now, is there a trick that I'm missing out that we getting evaluated on, and a lot of other founders. I mean, Dushyant and me spoke about this at length. One of those traumatic meetings, I called Dushyant up and saying that, why do they want to know the MRR? And we were 6 months old. What MRR? We're still building the product. So, what's your take on that?
My take is they're not actual real angel investors, right? They're probably financial professionals who are trying to drive a portfolio of investments, and this is an asset class, and revenue. It's very analytical, right? It's like getting into later round questions that you would ask if you're investing in a B round, or maybe even an A round, or especially later on. I also think that when times are really good, like you could, when times are really, really bad, then you can get into investments where there is revenue at an angel level, right? So I'm not sure if they're in India or here, or if there's different market dynamics, or if there's different expectation in coming in an angel, but in an angel round. But certainly here, like, revenue, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but it's not like a minimum requirement on determining whether you invest or not.
Yeah.
At least for me or the network that I'm in. Yeah.
So let me ask you another question related to this. Do you look at the product, or you look at the kind of revenues the startup is making? I mean, there is a set of growth that comes because of the product. There is a set of growth that comes because of the need or the demand, or the revenue being representative for that. Would you value more the product, or?
Yeah, these are all. You asking these questions is funny. You ask these questions in isolation. It's like it's a package, right? Like, I mean, there's not one thing. I think it's funny because a lot of the calls that we get on sometimes. Well, I guess we would have seen the product. We've gone on and checked out the product on our own, but we certainly the calls with the founders, almost never do we see a demo. So it's really digging into the problems they're trying to solve for, the traction, their strategy, asking about partnerships or whatever was business related, what they're building, if it's a deep tech product. So depending on what the pitch is, it's kind of digging into all that. If there is a digital product, we'll certainly have played around with it. But it's, I think, a little bit more strategic, because the app that you're seeing today, it's definitely not the app that's going to be there in a year or two. So it's really understanding the problem statement and the pain points, and why are they best suited to solve it, and build a whole team around them.
Right. Yeah. So this is the question we eternally have amongst us. It's like, do you sell first or do you build first? I mean, what comes first? Do you sell or build, or do you do that simultaneously? I think for me, it's always selling, because that's genuine for the demand, and we can keep building as we go along.
I think if you sell first, you actually will talk to more customers, and that's one thing I think I would say is one of the things that I would recommend for everyone to do more is talk to more and more customers or prospective customers.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easy to say, and it's easy to say that no one does enough of it, but it's true. It's all true, right? I mean, even in my current role, like I need to get out and talk to more customers that we have today, and also talk to prospective ones, and ask like the kind of those deeper questions, like what are your pain points, instead of trying to sell what we have today. But I think if you sell first and build later, you'll actually get more insights on what you should be building.
Very true. Right. I think that's the reason why, and this is why one thing that has stayed from the corporate to being a founder, that one truth always remains is to the customer, the problem, and how we can make it even more better using that truth.
Well, and I also think that's probably why we don't see a lot of demos, and when we do our calls with founders, is, and oftentimes the product hasn't been built yet.
So, is it your recommendation that when the startups pitch, they focus a little more on the product side, they show the demo, and then, or that's like
No.
it's okay.
Not of the. I mean, if they're a true angel, pre-seed, then I wouldn't necessarily expect a product. If they have one and have some traction, that's great. It depends on depends what industry they're in. If it's kind of a B2C and they can throw up a web page and push out an app pretty quickly, which I think everyone can do these days, then maybe you have a little bit of traction and engagement or something you can show. But I mean, if it's a deep tech, and I talked to one the other day that's building battery cells for solar panels, right? So they didn't have a product to show us. They knew how they were going to build it. They showed us how they were going to build it. I mean, we knew they could build it. And then it was more talking about what the strategy is to sell, and what's the TAM, and is this a competitive space, and a whole bunch of other things, right? So, but there's no product that we saw.
So my favorite question is this is something that I've been asking for a lot of people. Is there really angel mafia that exists? And a lot of founders seem to be very, very worried about being on the wrong side of angels, because the word will get around and will never get funded. So I need to be humble, all of that. So is there angel mafia in the region?
I mean, I don't think there's one in Singapore. I think there's a few well-known angel networks, but I think everyone gets along pretty well, and no one's aggressive to each other in terms of the angel networks. I think with, if you're a founder and you screw anyone, any of your investors, whether it be an angel investor or a VC fund, word will get around. And it's not because there's a mafia, it's just because you screwed people that have put their money and their trust into you. So, I mean, not every angel investment not every VC investment is going to work out, right? And if you do, just be honest and do what you can, that's I think what everyone expects of you. But I mean, if you screw people, and the word does get around, we have been, we've been invested in a angel company startup, and it actually wasn't the startup that screwed everyone. It was one of the other VCs. Mm-hmm. It was one of the other angel networks that screwed everyone. Oh. And so, in their demands, when things started going south, and the startup wanted to exit, so it wasn't the startup that everyone has a bad reputation. It was actually kind of one of the other investors, right? But word does get around.
So, Toby, what's your advice for a lot of young startups? I mean, we like gray heads and bald heads. We've been doing this for quite some time, so we don't get intimidated with a lot of investors or the investment talk. But when we talk to very early stage, the first time founders doing this for the first time, straight out of college, straight out of a job, there is this fear that's there in terms of doing the wrong thing. And that's not got to do with a fraud or wrong reporting that's happening in the startup, but it's just treading on someone's toes while you're pitching. And you know what I mean. I mean, this got to do more with, hey, I tread on Toby's toes, and he'll go and tell 5 other guys that this guy misbehaved with me, or got on the wrong side, I didn't like his face, that kind of a thing. Does that really happen, or is it just something that founders have it's a bogeyman that founders have imagined for a very long time?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a VC, so I can't talk about how the VCs are, but all the VCs I've met are pretty open and accepting of different styles and different ideas. I mean, certainly, as an angel investor and talking to lots of startups, it's pretty hard to piss me off, right? And especially if you're just polite and not too pushy. I think it's good to be a little bit, to insist a little bit, maybe, or I wouldn't say be aggressive, but show that you're not afraid to stand your ground. But as long as you're respectful, and you're trying to be sincere, I think most people and most angel investors are okay with that. Everyone's going to screw up. We all screw up.
That's worth of wisdom.
Absolutely. Yes.
Standing the ground. You learn the hard way. Normally, you get coerced into
Doing
many
what
things.
what the lead investor wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this is like Founders. It's their company. They shouldn't settle necessarily. I think there's different economic times, so I get it. Sometimes you need to, but yeah, you don't necessarily need to take the first check. If you got one person willing to write a check with you, there's probably 2 or 3 other ones.
Yeah. So I think advice to all those guys that there is someone out there much. So one should not be coerced or should be pushed into taking any check that's lying on the table. But have to be very judicious from both the sides.
Yeah, I think that the thing called due diligence has to work both ways. I think that's an important lesson. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're going to be on your cap table, so you're going to want to, you're going to want to spend some time with them and maybe do meetings with them or be open to receiving feedback from them, right? So
should we do a rapid fire?
Yeah, go ahead. It's your.
Okay. So Toby, I think a number of these questions you've already answered, but we'll make it like interesting rapid fire. First time founder, second time founder, or what's your pick?
I've done both. Obviously, second time founders have just been there and done it, but there's lots of good first time founders out there.
One choice.
Oh. I'll always do second time founder.
Solo founder and or the one.
Yeah, I've already answered that one, but definitely co-founders is
the best city in the world for investing.
Gosh, I haven't done too much outside of Southeast Asia, but there's lots of talent everywhere. I don't know. Singapore's been pretty good for me so far.
Great. And what's the worst pitch you would?
Oh my gosh, the worst pitch. I don't know. The worst pitch. I get hit up with a lot of lead gen companies. A lot of lead gen. I guess being in sales, and I'm not just talking about companies that are trying to pitch me to get user services, but startups and lead gen. I've seen some pretty bad stuff. Not too bad lately in the last 6 months because the AI stuff has really actually been pretty cool. But maybe going back a year or two, there was I saw 1 or 2 pretty horrid lead gen companies. Yeah.
That's great. I think these are all the questions that was there in the rapid fire, and you did really well. I hope it was fun for you.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks for having me.